chapter 11 of The Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. So I will start reading so early because I don't want to take so much of your time. And I think my video, I hope if it is not working, I will come on another one. So let's hope for the best. Okay, let's go and enjoy. So, chapter 11. Little had Mrs. Dashwood or her daughter imagined when they first came into Devonshire that so many engagements would arise to occupy their time as shortly presented themselves, or that they should have such frequent invitations and some constant visitors as to leave them little leisure for serious employment. Yet such was the case. When Marianne was recovered, the schemes of amusement at home and abroad, which Sir John had been previously forming, were put in execution. The private balls at the park then began, and parties on the water were made and accomplished as often as showery October would allow. In every meeting of the kind, Willoughby was included, and the case and familiarity which naturally attended these parties were exactly calculated to give increasing intimacy to his acquaintance with the Dashwoods, to afford him opportunity of witnessing the excellence of Marian, of marking his animated admiration of her, and of receiving in her behavior to himself the most pointed assurance of her affection. I'm a mess, okay? Just don't look at me, just listen to that. Elinor could not be surprised at their attachment. She only wished that it was less openly shown, and once or twice did venture to suggest the propriety of some self-command to Marian. But Marian abhorred all concealment where no real disgrace could attend unreserved, and to aim at the restraint of sentiments which were not in themselves ill, 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 illaudible. Wow. Like now I have to explain this word. Illaudible. Audible is like a good thing, like happening a good thing around. Here Marian is like doing things, going out with the boy and meeting with him, talking in the public places and all. At that time, that period of time, it was really hard, and it was not socially always acceptable to meet with the boy and the girl at the public place, or have some conversation with each other, and that would be acceptable any other situation rather than getting married or getting engaged with each other. So Marian was doing it with Willoughby, but Elinor was always not against it, but she always suggested to be careful. Here, Marian's view is saying that it is not bad to meet with other people, other gender people, like a boy in a public place, and have conversation or enjoyment or have fun, unless it is not ill audible. Wow, it's a very beautiful word. I cannot explain much, but it's, I mean, as much as it is good for all. So it is not worse. That means it's a good thing. So it's a negative, negative making the positive ones. Okay. I hope you understand uh, the word and this. I mean, sweetness of the word. I cannot say more, but it's a very sweet word. Okay, let's continue. I'll start I mean, from the very first of the sentence, of the very sentence, okay? But Marian abhorred all concealment where no real disgrace could attend unreverse, and to aim at the restraint of sentiments which were not in themselves ill audible appeared to her not merely an unnecessary effort, but a disgraceful subjections of reason to commonplace and mistaken notions. Willoughby thought the same, and their behavior at all the times was an illustration of their opinions. When he was present, she had no eyes for anyone else. Everything he did was right. Everything he said was clever. If their evenings at the park were concluded with cards, he cheated himself and all the rest of the party to get her to a good hand. If dancing formed the amusement of the night, they were partners for half of the time, and when obliged to separate for a couple of dances, were careful to stand together and scarcely spoke a word to anybody else. Such conduct made them, of course, most exceedingly laughed at. But ridicule could not shame and seemed hardly to provoke them. Mrs. Dashwood entered into their feelings with a warmth which left her no inclination for checking their excessive display of them. To her, it was but the natural consequence of a strong affection in a young and ardent mind. This was the reason of happiness to Marianne. Her heart was devoted to Willoughby, and the fond attachment to Norland which she brought with her from Sussex was more likely to be softened than she had thought it possible before. But the charms which his society bestowed on her present home, Eleanor's happiness was not so great. Her heart was not so much at ease, nor her satisfaction in their amusement so pure. They afforded her no companion that could make amends for what she had left behind, nor that could touch or teach her to think of Norland with less regret than ever. Neither Lady Middleton nor Mrs. Jennings could supply to her the conversation she missed, although the latter was an everlasting talker, and from the first had regarded her with a kindness which ensured her a large share of her discourse. She had already repeated her own story to Elinor 3 or 4 times, and had Elinor's memory been equal to her means of improvement, she might have known very early in their acquaintance all the particulars of Mrs. Jennings's last illness, and what she said to his wife a few minutes before he died. That was Mr. Jennings' life. Lady Middleton was more agreeable than her mother, only in being more silent. Elinor needed little conversation to perceive that her reserve was a mere calmness of manner with which sense had nothing to do. Mhm. Towards her husband and mother she was the same as to them, and intimacy was therefore neither to be looked for nor desired. She had nothing to say one day that she had not said the day before. Her insipidity was invariable, for even her spirits were always the same, and though she did not oppose the parties arranged by her husband, provided everything were conducted in style, and her 2 eldest children attended her, she never appeared to receive more enjoyment from them than she might have experienced in sitting at home, and so little did her presence add to the pleasure of the others by any share in their conversation, that they were sometimes only reminded of her being amongst them by her solicitude, but her troublesome boys. In Colonel Brandon alone, of all her new acquaintance, did Eleanor find a person who could in any degree claim the respect of abilities, excite the interest of friendship, or give pleasure is as a companion. Willoughby was out of the question. Her admiration and regard, even her sisterly regard, was all his own. but he was a lover. His attentions were wholly Marian's, and a far less agreeable man might have been more generally pleasing. Colonel Brandon, unfortunately for himself, had no such encouragement to think only of Marian, and in conversing with Elinor, he found the greatest consolation for the total indifference of her sister. So, Elinor is a very admirable character here, and she's like she has a posture, she has life of her own, and she can do so much more at times. And for for her family, like she was not a black sheep of the family, but she was quite sensible. So the sense of sensibility quite allows her to use her sensibility at some time at times of conversing, or having conversation with anybody else. Wants she wants some uh, solace to, like me myself. I'm not like Eleanor or something, but I sometimes think that a constructive conversation could help you understand the situation, or use the intellect of your brain to have a conversation which you would enjoy. So Eleanor is like that. Don't judge. Okay, she might have come a very, I mean, boring personality sometimes, but she's not, if you have conversation with her, or I would like to have conversation with her. She's not a real person, but I would enjoy having conversation with her because she uses her intellect in the conversation, and always is thirsty of knowledge, and a very constructive way or productive way of um, delivering the sentences. That's what I like the most. Okay, so I'll finish the rest of the chapter now. Eleanor's compassion for him increased as she had reason to suspect that the misery of disappointed love had already been known by him. This suspicion was given by some words which accidentally dropped from him one evening at the park, when they were sitting down together by mutual consent. While the others were dancing, his eyes were fixed on Marian, and after a silence of some minutes, he said with a faint smile, "Your sister, I understand, does not approve of second attachments." "No," replied Eleanor. "Her opinions are all romantic. Or rather, as I believe, she considers them impossible to exist." "I believe she does." Okay, that's my nephew, so don't worry about that. Bye. So he's saying bye. Okay, I will start the conversation again. "No," replied Eleanor. When Mr. Brandon asked about his sisters to be having a second opinion or second love or second attachment or something, then Eleanor said, "No, her opinions are all romantic, or rather, as I believe, she considered them impossible to exist. I believe she does. But how she contrives it without reflecting on the character of her own father, who had himself two wives, I know not. A few years, however, will settle her opinions on the reasonable basis of common sense and observation, and then they may be more easy to define and to justify than they now are by anybody but herself." "This will probably be the case," he replied. Yet there has, and yet there is something so amiable in the prejudices of a young mind that one is sorry to see them give way to the reception of more general opinions. "I cannot agree with you there," said Eleanor. "There are inconveniences attending such feelings as Marian's, which all the charms of enthusiasm and ignorance of the world cannot atone for. Sorry. Her systems have all the unfortunate tendency of setting propriety at naught. And a better acquaintance with the world is what I look forward to as her greatest possible advantage. After a short pause, he resumed the conversation by saying, does your sister make no distinct in her objections against a second attachment, or is it equally criminal in everybody? Are those who have been disappointed in their first choice, whether from the inconsistency of its object or the perseverance of circumstances, to be equally indifferent during the rest of their lives? Upon my word, I am not acquainted with the minute of her principles. I only know that I never yet heard her admit any instance of a second attachment being pardonable. This, said he, I mean, he is Mr. Brandon, cannot hold. But a change, a total change of sentiments. No, no, do not desire it. For when the romantic refinements of a young mind are obliged to give way, how frequently are they succeeded by such opinions as are but too common and too dangerous. I speak from experience. I once knew a lady who, in temper and mind, greatly resembled your sister, who thought and judged like her, but who, from an enforced change, from a series of unfortunate circumstances, here he stopped suddenly, appeared to think that he had said too much, and by his countenance gave rise to conjectures which might not otherwise have entered Elinor's head. The lady would probably have passed without suspicion, had he not convinced Miss Dashwood that what concerned her ought not to escape his lips. As it was, it required but a slight effort of fancy to connect his emotion with the tender recollection of past regard. Eleanor attempted no more, but Marianne, in her place, would not have done so little. The whole story would have been speedily formed under her active imagination, and everything established in the most melancholy order of distrust love. That is the end of chapter 11. I will continue my venture with the book. I don't know how long it's going to take to finish me, but I'll finish it eventually. So take care and enjoy. If there is any problem, you are um, allowed to ask me questions, or if you want me to do this video again, I'll do it. Okay, but I don't know when I can do it, but I will try to do it as soon as possible. So take care, keep enjoying, keep reading, and keep reading and keep enjoying. Okay. Bye.